So fill to me the parting glass, and drink a health whate'er befall.
Hi, everybody. My name's Alli Bell, and I am so excited to see so many names that I know from now and even from hi Owen, hi Henry, hi Lauren, and even my college skipper is on. Hi Sally, I saw you somewhere. It's so good to see you all. I'm going to take just a few minutes and talk about my story from this summer, which is how the boat that you see on the screen with 5 people on board won the 2025 Transpac race. And this was notable for a few reasons. One is in the race's 119-year history, I am the first female skipper with who won overall. So that's a huge honor. And then also, you'll see that that boat in front of you is not brand new. It's a 1967 Cal 40 that my husband and I restored. You'll see later that I had a little bit of help with that, given my husband's profession, but nonetheless, we were the second slowest and the second oldest boat in the fleet. So we felt pretty happy about our accomplishment. So my story started long ago. This is the finish of Transpac in 1953. And the guy in the left, or I'm sorry, the back right corner with sort of the ears and the glasses looking down, that's my grandpa, Willard Bell. And he's the one who started the Bell family on their ocean going history. And if you are in Southern California, you for sure have heard about a bell. We are all related. We all sail together. We all love sailing together. This is Grandpa later. This is from when he was Commodore of Los Angeles Yacht Club, but he's the guy who we can all attribute our sailing roots to. In 1963, my grandfather bought this boat, which is still in the family at the moment. Her name's Westward. She's a Lapworth 50 and has done 7 Transpac races, always with family and friends on board. She's done what in 1978, she even did the Tahiti race. In 1981, if you've have our Transpac history buff, my grandpa and my aunts and uncles and my dad and my grandma were on board. And the first night of Transpac, there was a flare that went up, and they investigated the situation. And there was a catamaran that had broken up off of San Nick. So they went and rescued 7 sailors, plucked 7 sailors out of the water. And my grandpa said, well, this boat's going to Hawaii. You can come, or we can put you in your life raft and the Coast Guard can pick you up. And they went down into the forepeak there and had a conversation about what to do and ended up deciding to go to Hawaii. Their watches that race were 4 hours on, 14 hours off, or something equally as restful. And that is the summer that my grandfather learned that my grandmother, who was always the provisioner, would not listen to him when he limited the amount of food that she could take, because with 16 people on board, they finished in Hawaii with food and beer left over. So not only am I a 3rd-generation Transpac sailor, but I'm a 3rd-generation female Transpac sailor. Since 1981, Westward kind of became a floating beach house, and this is my immediate family and my grandparents on our way home from Catalina. Westward went to Catalina hundreds of times between 1963 when she joined the family and even today. But in 2013, my Uncle Sam and my Uncle Willie decided that it was time to give the next generation a chance to do Transpac. So along with my cousins, John and Graham, who I believe are on the call, and our other cousin, Mara, and I, the 6 of us, took Westward twice for 2 Transpacs, once in 2013 and once in 2015. And for the 4 of us, I'm going to go ahead and speak for all of us since I'm the elder of all 4 of us. It was the realization of a real dream come true, because for our whole lives, we had sat in the cockpit of that boat and heard these stories about racing to Hawaii. I always knew that I wanted a Cal 40. From the Westward's mooring in Catalina, right behind us was a Cal 40. I was a cockpit sleeper, so I'd wake up every morning and see the bow of a Cal 40 just off our stern, and I always knew I wanted a Cal 40. This is a Cal 40 that I ended up being here at San Diego Yacht Club. Her name's Restless, and this was a few months after I bought her in 2019. You take a look at those vintage sails, particularly that main, which is, I think we decided 3 years older than I am. The Genoa that you see on the foredeck there made it only a couple years. Not one of those sails went with us to Hawaii in 2025, but Restless was a well-loved boat. And as I learned the boat better, I learned that a lot of people that I had grown up sailing, idolizing, had learned to sail and race on that boat. So I was fortunate to get a boat with a good story, including a good friend to the Cal 40, Stan Honey. When I first got the boat, I was very confident in my ability to spend some time and do some work on it. And I immediately started by just cleaning up the Restless. I'm Restless's third owner, and the owners before me bought her in 71. So I started with the goal of cleaning up 40 years worth of the boat, basically being owned by one family and having a whole bunch of stuff done to her that was DIY, which is great, except for I didn't understand any of it. So I thought to myself, if I'm going to take this boat to Hawaii, and especially being a female skipper, I want to make sure that I understand this boat inside and out. So this is me tearing the boat apart months into having her with the goal of cleaning up down below cosmetically, understanding all the electric, understanding all the mechanics, and making her look and feel like I wanted my boat to look and feel. There is a very large Cal 40 contingent out here in Southern California, and almost anybody I talked to said, okay, we'll go ahead and do all that, but please promise us that you will not do anything major until you've used the boat for a while and know how you want the boat to work for you. And what do you want it to do? And to every single one of those people, I said, well, I have two goals. One is to skipper my own boat Transpac, and this is that boat. And two is to be able to spend some time on Catalina comfortably in her. So you will see later some of the choices were influenced equally by those two goals, which now I can say did not impact our Transpac race in any significant way, at least not negatively. We had some good things that happened. For a while, I did brightening up the interior. The plywood bulkheads just didn't look good, and I wanted to brighten things up down there, so I painted them. I revarnished all the wood down below. I got a new range because there was just two burners. I cut deeper stops in all the drawers so they wouldn't slide out when we were sailing. I'm still working on perfecting that. And I simplified the wiring runs, because I was adamant that if something was going to happen at sea, at night, in major seaway, which is when something always happens, I wanted to be able to address it in a hurry. We did beer cans out here in San Diego, just like that, and we did all right. We won a lot of rum, which is the second place and most desirable place in the San Diego beer can. But one of the things I also did was I cleaned up those tow rails. A common fix in the Cal 40 is the deck hull joint often needs to be reshored. And when I cleaned up the tow rails, I dislodged 40 years worth of moss that had been sitting there. And it became very obvious, one of the first washdowns, that the boat was going to need some professional help to get it ready. This is the boat sitting in the sling at Driscoll's. In the summer of 2022, August of 2022, she went and spent about 6 months on the stands here. And this is her first day getting ready to have some major work done. There's just a few pictures of this. Essentially, on topsides, anything you can see, we touched. We filled, we reputtied, we reglassed, we replaced wood. And I'm using the term we here very liberally. The guys at the yard did a great job doing a lot of this. You can see we took away all the wood across the whole boat. So this is the cockpit coaming having been removed. My mast was corroded the last I think 18 inches were sort of soft, mushy metal, which is not what you want in a mast that you're going to take 2,200 miles. So they pulled it and cut it up, and I ended up having a mast given to me that was off of another Cal 40, and that person did a stem to stern, completely brand new, much more intensive refit than this any. So he gave me his old mast, which was actually in fine condition. This is more of filling that deck hull joint there. Also, because the boat existed before the current safety equipment requirements, the stanchions were just about between, depending on the gap, between 4 and 6 inches too far apart. So we knew that we had to replace that too in order to be able to go offshore. This was what I was talking about. One of those choices that I made in service mostly of Catalina. In the cockpit of Restless were all these old, beautiful Signet instruments, which I loved and really wanted to keep. Two problems with them. One is they fogged up anytime they got wet, which was not going to work on a 12-day sail to Hawaii where you're relying entirely on your instruments. And the other thing was that there were 3 compasses, which really inhibited the lounging ability right there in the best lounging spot in the whole boat. So we decided to go bare bulkheads there. The handrails come off. There was probably 100 linear feet of track anytime previous owners had gotten a new sail or had a new idea. They didn't move track around. They just added new track, and that there was some real toe stubbing concerns. So I said, I want to minimize the track on the deck. And here's Restless getting put back together. It's funny, at this point he was not, but he is now, my husband is Stephen Driscoll of Driscoll Boat Works. And it turns out to be a really good idea to marry a guy with a boatyard if you're doing an extensive refit on a boat. But what I really appreciated about him was that a lot of people would go straight to him to ask him the questions. And almost without fail, he would say, this is Alli's boat, it's her decision. And so I spent a lot of time down at the yard going over things that I'm sure for other customers, he probably just made the decision for him. He has been so supportive of me throughout this whole thing and really wanted me to shine and is a good ally to the female cause. Made a huge point out of saying, nope, this is her boat. I'm not making all the decisions. So when you see Stephen around, guys, give him an attaboy. We had to shore up the cabin top a little bit. There's no compression post in Restless, so we laminated some carbon strips across the cabin top to make that really a lot more stable. The whole cabin was a lot more stable, which is funny because it turns out that boat has a lot of flexibility in it, no matter how much extra stability you add, as we found out in the Molokai Channel. The painters at the yard decided that they would prefer to give the boat a real paint job rather than my paint job. It looks way better. And then we started putting the boat back together. The bottom got a complete blister job. These are all the patches for the blister. The highest number I see here is 87, but I don't think this is the last page of fiberglass patches that went into the bottom. Eventually, the boat looked like this. So it was sort of a brand new 58-year-old boat. The boat went into the water very shortly after this picture was taken. We brought it home and put to San Diego Yacht Club and did all of the outfitting, me, Stephen, and some of our friends. None of that was done by the yard. Oh, we got a new crew member too. That's our little puppy, Annie. New bottom, new boot stripe. There's a story about that color, which I can save for another time. Here's that mast showing up in San Diego. And this is the first picture of Restless 2.0 in me. I'm taking her to, having had her rig put in, we're going back to the club to finish putting the boat together. Turn or slip. Not, as you can see, there's nothing on this boat except for like a tiller. The backstay isn't even really hooked up there in that picture. There's no lifelines. We had just put the stanchions in. So Stephen and I did a lot of work in the slip on our own. This is the first picture of Restless racing after the refit. That Genoa, I referred to it earlier. That Genoa was my sailmaker, the guy who came on, who you might have seen me refer to as the sailmaker, Eric Heim. He built that Genoa just out of high school. So that thing, that is that sail's very last sail. It exploded completely on us about 5 minutes later, which meant it was time for me to rethink the sail inventory. We had a couple of practice races. This is Restless on Islands race, which was the last time we did, which was in February of last year, and the last major sail we did before Transpac. But here you can see that Genoa is brand new and the purple and gray Spinnaker are brand new. And those are the only two brand new sails on the boat. The main was used twice by a Cal 40 friend who had ordered the main in a different color and said that he did not want to put a black sail on a classic boat. And I said, well, I'll do it for a discount, no problem. It came time to put the crew together. So this is me and my husband and our former dog Ellie before Restless's refit. Stephen, when I first bought the boat, kind of showed up. That was the beginning of our modern day romance. There's a whole different story there that when you come to San Diego Yacht Club someday, we can talk about it in the bar. But he was obviously my first choice and the guy I bugged most once I got the boat. This guy, Graham Bell, after our first Transpac together, I said, Graham, I'm buying a boat, I'm sailing Transpac, and you're going to be my navigator. Since then, a lot of life has happened. So once I bought the boat, Graham at the time had a kid and another one on the way. And I said, Graham, will Whitney still let you race Transpac with me as my navigator? And he said, oh, yeah. And Whitney, thank you because it worked out great. This is Eric Heim, who's a sailmaker. He did not sail with us for pay. He sailed with us because when I bought the boat, he said, boy, I want to do a Transpac on a Cal 40, and I've known Eric forever and always. And then this is my friend Greg, who I grew up racing with here in San Diego. I get a lot of questions about why there wasn't another woman on the boat. And the sad story is that there was supposed to be. Our cousin Mara was supposed to join us as well. And she couldn't due to an accident about a week before our start, which was really too bad, but she was an instrumental part of our crew in Hawaii. You know, I didn't start out to do an all women's crew. I wanted to go with family and friends and people who had helped me on the boat. And these four guys I had sailed thousands of miles with, and so they were the obvious first choice for me. Here we are on Islands Race. This is Restless's first time out. We finished that race. We ended up losing it by 14 minutes. We got second by 14 minutes, won our class. And shortly after this picture was taken, I said to Eric, who's in the orange, I said, well, strong opening move for Restless. There's only one way we can do better at Transpac. And he said, do not say that. You will jinx us. And I was like, it's just a fact. So after Islands, our prep got started in earnest. This is the crew of three boats, three different boats are represented here at a safety at sea course at San Diego Yacht Club. If you have not done a safety at sea course, I cannot stress its importance more. I am as sure as anything when I say the first time an inflatable PFD blows up, you do not want it to be when you're already panicking from something else. You want it to be when you expect it. So if you have not, please take the hands-on portion of the safety at sea course. It's well worth it, the time and money. More prep pictures. There's lots of stuff and food that needs to go. And a lot of parties have to happen. That's one of the sailing for me, it's what I do for fun. So if there's not a big social contingent with people I love, I'm usually less interested. So this is the Aloha send-off party. This is more getting the boat ready party up in LA. And this is the morning of the race. Sailing is a big family and friends thing for me. So we had quite a send-off crew. Restless ready to go on the morning of her start. And what happens for those of you who have not done Transpac before, it starts off of Point Furman in LA. And this is the start. The last bit of land you see is this rock, Eagle Rock, off the west end of Catalina. And I always say that rock looks like something else that I'm not going to talk about in polite company, but I think you can all agree with me. And that's the last land you see until you see Maui or Molokai. And we settled into quite a rhythm. Here's Graham in his very modern navigator station, which is just a laptop on his bunk on the boat. Stephen, who said he was not going to be able to sleep, obviously sleeping just fine. Greg over there, we ate real meals aboard Restless. I think that if you go offshore, you should have fun and be comfortable. And on Restless, it's possible to do real meals, so we did. Life was driving the boat and trimming the beanbag on deck. We did 2 on deck at a time, 3 off deck. You were 2 hours on, 3 hours off. Your first hour on, you trimmed the beanbag, as Greg is doing back there. Your second hour on, you drove. And after about minute 59 of your second hour, you were counting down the seconds until the new watch person came up so you could disappear down below. Here's Stephen looking very confident that the first night of Transpac was not too bad. This was just before a wave got him soaking wet, so he got instant karma there. You got to keep it fun, and for us this year, that meant celebrating 4th of July in the middle of the ocean. Our awesome shore crew provided us with all of these 4th of July party favors, and so we had a good, I don't know, 5 to 10 minute celebration. It's unbelievably beautiful out there. This is what keeps me going back. Being out, doing something I love in a place that's so beautiful with people I love. At some point in the middle of the night, you hit halfway. This is Graham and me celebrating that we are halfway to Hawaii. I think it was about 2 a.m. in that picture. The sunsets, sunrises. People want to hear about the trip, and it really is you wake up, you sail, you sleep, you take care of your business, you eat. On repeat for us for 12 and a half days. The blue, all the blues are my favorite color blue. The rainbow, I mean, we had so many squalls this year, and this is my 5th Transpac. The seas were more confused than I've ever seen them. So we had a lot more rainbows, and it was a lot more difficult sailing than I remember. We had big, bright moons at night. We even jibed at one point. After 9 days on starboard, we jibed, and here we are on port, everybody trying to remember how to sail. We had Starlink, so we were well connected. And the benefit of this was that we all were engaged in the race so much the whole time because you could check the tracker and you could check the weather. And so it really was a great tool for us. Here's one of our brunches. We had some support from, this is the Battle Chicken on the left and Veronica Vixen on the right. And after 12 and a half long days, what you can see behind Eric there is our first sight of land. That's Molokai. We sailed right down Molokai on the most beautiful day of sailing I think I have ever had, to finish at about 10:22 in the Molokai Channel. And I can tell you that it went from the most beautiful, calm, I mean, it was blowing about 20, 25, but just organized seas, everybody's having a good time, to the scariest, darkest, huge seas, huge wind. Just please let these 10 miles pass without the boat breaking. 3 hairy jibes to finish. And this is the only picture of our finish. If you look to the left of the moon on the horizon there, you see a little dot. That is our masthead light coming into the finish. It was so dark and so rough that there were no other pictures of us. And so after 12 and a half days, this crew of people arrived to the dock. About 100 people were standing on the dock waiting for us. The Commodore of Waikiki Yacht Club mentioned that he was scared the dock was going to sink. And then continued the parties and the good times. Here we are getting our first in class, first Aloha, first California, and first overall trophies, which was a pretty good haul to take home. Super proud of my crew and my boat. And like I said, Transpac and sailing, none of this is worth any of it without your friends and your family. And I always cry at this part, so forgive me. And the people who come to support you. And this is just a handful of supporters who came and saw us in Hawaii from California. And we could not be more grateful for all of them and all of you who followed along on the journey. This is the end of my show, but before I pass off, I know I'm slightly over time. Sorry, Debbie.
Oh, you're
But
good.
what I just want to say is that some of the questions that I've gotten have been around, like, how do you think it was different for you as a woman? And how do you, did people have faith in you? And did people, um, were they supportive or were they sort of like hands off? And the answer to all of that is yes. And so the advice that I have for anybody who wants to do it, regardless of your gender or your age or your experience level, is just get on a path that you want to be on and keep going. And the people who are going to be supportive of you, those are your people, keep them in your camp. And the people who are not going to be supportive of you, well, they don't wind up winning Transpac.
Of all the comrades that e'er I had, the sorry for my God.